Cavs last night. His former team putting up 46, 8, and 6. He also made 19 of his 26 shots in 7 of 11 from three-point range. Still the king. Looking at the best records in the NBA, the Lakers are on top and the favorites to win it again. Kawhi and the Clippers are still chasing them at number 2. The Sixers are the top team in the East, but the superstar trio in Brooklyn are climbing. Max Kellerman, who's under the most pressure to knock off LeBron and the Lakers?
Kevin Durant, clearly. I mean, when KD got to Brooklyn with Kyrie, the mandate was to get to the finals at least. But then they added James Harden. James Harden, who, by the way, rolled out of bed, showed up fat and out of shape, and gave him 30 points, a triple-double with 30 points. I mean, game 1, and was winning with KD. And then the question was Kyrie even going to be there? Is he self-destructing? And then Kyrie's back. I mean, if you have an MVP with another MVP and a third all-star plus kind of player, that is a big 3. And in fact, it's a big 3 in the absence of any other big 3 in the league. There's no other big 3 in the league. You know what happens when you put a big 3 together and there's no other big 3? You got to at least get to the finals. That's the history of the NBA. Got to get to the finals. Now, you could say, well, KD already beat LeBron in the finals, but everyone knows what that was. LeBron James led a team against a 73-win Warriors team, went to Oracle on the road, wins a Game 7 against the same team that had just beaten a loaded Thunder team that KD was on. KD and the Warriors looked at each other and said, this LeBron dude, got together, and at that point, everyone in the world knew there's nothing you could do to stop him. It's not a level playing field. It's impossible to beat that team. So what? KD has 2 wins in the finals over LeBron. There's no way not to on that Warriors team. This is different. Now KD's like, okay, watch this. He made a courageous decision. I'm going to go somewhere, put together a team like LeBron does, and meet this dude head on. You have James Harden and Kyrie Irving, and you're Kevin Durant, who joined the 73-win team to beat LeBron. There is no more pressure on any player to knock LeBron off his throne than there is on Kevin Durant.
Max Kellerman, I don't at this point disagree with you. I know I'm supposed to, but I don't at this point disagree with you, particularly since James Harden arrived. What I would tell you, however, because James Harden arrived and they had won 2 straight and James Harden was averaging 34 and did the triple-double and him and KD came out the blocks vibing, and then Kyrie came back and they lost back-to-back games to Cleveland, even though he was averaging, he's averaging 28 points a game. He averaged 37.5 in those 2 games. He shot twice as much as James Harden. What I would say to you is that I don't disagree with you about Kevin Durant, but I can't let Kawhi Leonard off the hook, y'all. I really, really have a problem. And don't get me wrong, I don't mean have a problem. Kawhi's a good guy. Kawhi's a star. He plays on both ends of the floor. I'm only speaking in purely basketball sense. Kawhi is in L.A. Kawhi came to L.A. as a champion out of Toronto saying, there's a new sheriff in town. They marketed Kawhi Leonard as being the new sheriff in town. You had the king's crown dangling from his convertible, okay, driving down the highway in L.A., knowing LeBron was in town. That's what you came to town to say. That's what you came to town to claim, okay? And then LeBron answered the call. They handled their business in the first 2 rounds. They went to the conference finals, was waiting for you. You had a 3-1 lead. You lost to the Denver Nuggets. I'm sorry, I can't let Kawhi Leonard off the hook. Kawhi Leonard is a superstar in this game as a player. He's not superstar box office, but he's a superstar as a player. You in the same town, playing in the same arena. You got the Clippers to make all these concessions so you can have your man Paul George, who's giving you 23 a night, by the way. You averaging 26 a game, 26, 5, and 5. Shooting better than 50% from the field. Y'all on a 7-game winning streak. Y'all 13 and 4 on the season. This is what you bringing to the table. I can't be looking at Kevin Durant in Brooklyn and just gloss over the fact that Kawhi Leonard was. That's why Steve Ballmer and Lawrence Frank and at the time Doc Rivers and everybody went all in on this move. And all of a sudden, because James Harden arrives in Cleveland, we got to ignore Kawhi Leonard and what the hell you supposed to bring to the table before the final.
Well,
I got news for you, Max. Correct me if I'm wrong. Somewhat rhetorical question. If LeBron and them can't get past the Clippers, there ain't no finals for LA, right? So KD wouldn't have that much to worry about, right? And ain't there somebody that's supposed to be standing in LeBron's way to prevent him from being in the NBA Finals? Isn't that supposed to be Kawhi Leonard? That's all I'm saying.
By the way, you said, I know you meant Brooklyn. You said Cleveland. You meant Harden.
I meant Brooklyn.
But let's talk about that for a second. I respect what you're saying because Kawhi was the guy who threw down the challenge. LeBron was like, come play with me. And Kawhi said, no, I'm coming for you, and didn't even hold up his end of the deal by getting there. And he did not play well in Game 7, particularly late in the game. I'm not letting him off the hook either.
He was off the.
But we have to be honest
the whole
about
second half.
Kawhi, until that moment, Kawhi was once again magnificent in the playoffs. Until that Game 7, he was the Finals MVP, who was the best player in the playoffs by far last year, without LeBron, or 2 years ago, without LeBron in the league. Came back and was magnificent, but he choked in that Game 7. I'm not letting him off the hook for that either. But who's he playing with? Like, he's on a real good team, and Paul George's a real good player. But Paul George ain't an MVP. Forget about the fact that Paul George doesn't show up in the playoffs. Paul George ain't KD. Like, LeBron's playing with AD. That would be like if Kawhi played with KD. Give Kawhi KD and now let's talk. Or if you want to look at KD, who I'm saying there's more pressure on, and I know you agree with that, to beat LeBron, even though you're not letting Kawhi off the hook. I get it. KD is playing with Harden and Kyrie. Give Kawhi Steph Curry and Damian Lillard, or Steph Curry and someone on that level. That's what KD's got. That's not what Kawhi's got. Let's not get it bent, Stephen A. Let's not get it twisted. LeBron's got AD. KD's got Harden and Kyrie. And the fact of the matter is,
I'm not disagreeing.
This dude, Kawhi, has Paul George, who's not on those guys' levels, Harden or AD. He's not on their levels, but especially under pressure.
You would have a point if they didn't lose a 3-1 to Jamal Murray in Game 7. It ain't just about Kawhi on the offensive end. Kawhi Leonard was known as one of the elite defenders. None of them wanted a part of Jamal Murray. He dropped 40 in a Game 7. At the same time, they disappeared. I'm sorry, I can't let Kawhi Leonard off the hook on that. You in LA for a reason. Handle your business. We want to see LeBron versus Kawhi Leonard. Where's that confrontation? Kawhi Leonard owes us that. LeBron doesn't. He held up his end of the bargain. Where's Kawhi? Where is he? That's what I want to see before you get to KD.
All right, according to Caesars in Vegas, Lakers have the best odds, followed by the Nets and the Clippers. Speaking of the Lakers.
Meanwhile, let's go to the performance of the night, and it came from another who we sometimes call the GOAT. That's LeBron James. Back home in Cleveland, said it was the home cooking. Had dinner at his mom's house the night before they went out last night and dropped 46 on the Cavs. Look at him there, late in the first, knocking down a 3. He had 17 in the first quarter. Then first play of the second, look at the dime. Little dish, 6 assists for LeBron. That one to Montrezl Harrell, who had 15 points off the bench. Lakers up 13, but in the fourth quarter, this was a close game. Lakers up just 2. LeBron, defense, offense, flush. He was 19 of 26 from the floor. He really took over in the fourth quarter. Look at him going up, swatting that one away from Colin Sexton. They called it a goaltend, then they overturned it. Then he's knocking down a 3 from the logo. That gave him 36. A minute later, the step back 3. Now he's at 41. A minute left in the game. Little Bernard King baseline action. LeBron James, 21 in the fourth, 46 points on the night. The Lakers remain perfect on the road. They win it in Cleveland, 115 to 108. So they're 10-0 on the road. And with that 46 points, he's the oldest Laker with a 40-point game since Kobe Bryant scored 60 in the final game of his career. And of course, today marks the 1-year anniversary of Kobe's tragic death. It was Sunday, January 26th of 2020, when Bryant and his 13-year-old daughter Gianna and 7 others were killed in a helicopter crash in Calabasas, California. The days and the weeks that followed were marked with emotional outpourings of grief and appreciation from around the world as people celebrated the life and the legacy of one of the great legends that we've ever seen in sports and well beyond. And so we have Jalen Rose with us today. And, you know, Jay, we just talked last week because it was the anniversary of the 81-point game, and we were remembering Kobe then. And so I just wonder, when you woke up this morning and you knew this was something everyone, and yourself included, would be talking about, what were the first thoughts that went through your mind?
Well, it's really tough, Greeny, because, you know, it's only 1 year. And we get introduced to these all-time great athletes and entertainers through their performance. But then when you start to get to know them and appreciate that there's a game of life that comes with this. And Kobe Bryant being drafted in 1996, and Jerry West saying that that was the greatest workout that he'd ever seen. Drafted by the Hornets, traded for Vlade Divac to the Los Angeles Lakers. Was a child phenom in the NBA annals, but he wasn't a starter on his own team. And a lot of people, including in his own locker room, resented that he was presented to be the golden child so very young. They go to Utah, they lose a playoff game, he shoots multiple air balls at the end of the game, and people start to assassinate his character. What does he do? He gets in the gym, he starts to work, and before you know it, Kobe Bryant becomes a 3-time back-to-back-to-back champion playing alongside Shaquille O'Neal. And then another, I guess, turbulent career thing happened when he and Shaq didn't see eye to eye and Shaq left. You remember this, Greeny. People chose sides, and they picked Shaq. The public picked Shaq. And then Shaq went to Miami and won a championship. And I remember covering the game when he and Dwayne Wade came back to play at LA versus Kobe. There were no handshakes that game. And so for Kobe Bryant to then reinvent himself again, change his number, win 2 more championships with Pau Gasol and Phil Jackson, that validated in his mind his all-time greatness. And we talk about Michael Jordan or LeBron James or whoever you want to be the greatest of all time, but I tell you, if I look really close